Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or good morning, depending on what time zone you're in. It is currently 12:24 a.m. I am James Kuzno, coming to you for live chat with James at the studios at ProPix Canada TV here in Vancouver, British Columbia. Some of the stories we're going to be talking about tonight are the chemical plants in China safe? Why is there a school within 900 meters of the chemical plant that most recently exploded? And if they didn't feel there were safety risks, why were there enough gas masks in the school to supply all students with one after the most recent chemical explosion and potential contamination of the area? We'll get into that as the show goes on. We know that Mark Carney here in Canada has invited Claudia Sheinbaum to the G7 Leaders Summit coming up later in June. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is continuing to talk about annexing Canada as well as his Golden Dome position that if Canada is going to be involved in the Golden Dome, it'll cost about $61 billion unless we become the 51st state, in which case it would be free to Canada. Let's face the facts. If we were to be a part of the U.S., just like every other U.S. taxpayer, we'd be paying for the Golden Dome. So don't let it fool you. We're not getting nothing for free, first of all. And second of all, here is a clear message for Donald Trump. Canada is and always will be a sovereign nation. We respect our First Nations and our unceded territories. We respect nature. We respect our wildlife. But most of all, we respect our autonomy, our freedom, and our independence. So, Donald Trump, in terms of the Golden Dome, in terms you can understand, is stick that Golden Dome up your ass and fuck off. That's the message for Donald Trump today. But in any event, when we look at that as well, there are a few other ways in which Mark Carney has basically put the middle finger up to Donald Trump, and that is, of course, with the official visit of King Charles III. He has wrapped up his Canadian visit, and he and his wife Camilla, or Queen Camilla, have departed Canada. As we also will be looking at Bellingham, Washington, where their council and mayor has sent a letter to BC's Lower Mainland communities and their counterparts, trying to persuade Canadians to come back across the border to shop, and we'll get into that a bit more as well. As that goes on, we will take a look at the throne speech and what was said there, as well as any other topics that you, the audience, want to discuss. So by all means, if you have any topics of conversation, or if you have opinions on stories we're discussing, by all means, put them in the comment section, and I'll be glad to invite you in to have a conversation about it. Also, don't forget that you can, if you are watching the program on repeat broadcast on various platforms or online, you're more than welcome to leave comments there. Always looking at the comments that are on not only the live show, but on the repeats, so that I can include them in future shows to keep everybody as a part of this program. It's always amazing to know where you're logging in and watching from, so by all means also share your city, state, or province and let me know where you're tuning in from. It's always cool to see where in the world our viewers are joining us from. As I said, Mark Carney has taken the opportunity with the G7 summit coming up later in June to invite Claudia Sheinbaum. She is looking to attend at the invite of Mark Carney so that the two leaders can sit down and discuss relations, whether that's trade, security, and of course a unified approach to handling Donald Trump and his tariffs, as well as other security issues. This is an important opportunity for these two leaders to sit down and talk face to face about the issues that are of concern to both the Canadian people and the Mexican people in terms of what Donald Trump is doing. So again, we'll wait and see if the official invitation is officially accepted. And if she will be attending the G7, it would be wonderful to have her here. And even though it may happen, or it is happening in June, bring a sweater and a jacket, because let me tell you, if you are in Kananaskis and in the Canadian Rockies, it can still have a bit of a chill, and we can always get a late season snowfall in the Canadian Rockies in June. So again, bring your sweater, bring your jacket or your parka, and enjoy all that Kananaskis and the beautiful province of Alberta have in the Rockies. Enjoy it. So as we continue on, sorry, I'm just going to double check our comment section here. Welcome, Letty Fimbres. Miri Allo A, welcome. M. Georges Bordeaux, welcome. Linko Rancheza, or Ranchaz, welcome everyone. Glad to have you here again. By all means, leave your comments. Excuse me, and share your opinions. Don't be shy. And by all means, if you disagree with me on something, don't be shy about that either, because conversation and dialogue is a great way to learn, both for me and for the viewers. So again, don't be shy if you disagree with something, or if you want to talk about something off topic. Of course, you're welcome to do that as well. Now, let's take a look at another story here, and that is Canada joining the European military buildup. Yes, it is happening. Right now, Mark Carney's talking about joining the military buildup, which essentially takes a lot of the military, whether it's munitions and other supplies and so forth, out of the hands of the Americans, and we actually start seeing more development and more manufacturing of such in Canada or in Europe. So that is a big step. As it is now, the majority of munitions and other military gear and military spending takes place with the United States. A lot of the funding that goes into NATO, a lot of that money also is spent in the United States by U.S. companies, or buying from U.S. companies. This is going to have a major impact on the U.S. economy, as so many other things are these days. And again, so by looking outside of the U.S. to source, taking that power away from Donald Trump and his trade war. So we'll watch and see how that plays out. But again, Mark Carney would like to join the European military buildup before Canada Day, which is July the 1st. So we'll keep an eye on that and keep you updated as that agreement continues to be worked on. And when it is officially announced, we will definitely report on that as well. Now, Bellingham, Washington. They are a small community, and they have a lot to offer Canadians, a lot of places to visit, as well as shopping. Excuse me, down in Bellingham, there's a lot of shopping opportunities for Canadians, and it's been for decades where Canadians from here in the Lower Mainland and Fraser Valley would travel south of the border and go to Bellingham for the day. You would stop at Denny's for lunch or some of the other local restaurants and just spend the day shopping at Bellis Fair and other malls and outlet stores that are in the area. As far as I can remember going back, my mother and my aunt used to actually just cross the border as well to go play bingo in Blaine. So again, it is a real compliment for both sides to be so close together in terms of the communities and the trade as well as the tourism. Now, unfortunately, year over year or month over month from last year, in 2024 to 2025, we have seen a drop by over 50% of vehicles crossing the border for the month of April. That's again comparing April 2024 to April 2025. In light of U.S. Border Patrol, ICE, and whoever else is in these fatigues that are not actually identifiable and waving their guns around, stopping vehicles coming north into Canada, that has had an impact on people wanting to go south, as well as the fact that people seem to be just arbitrarily arrested and sent to prisons or detention centers run by ICE. Unfortunately, what's happening is that a lot of these detention facilities are actually privately run. So what we're seeing is the potential or the accusations that the reason they shuffle people around the country is because the different facilities are paid by the number of heads in the beds. And as they can count these various individuals over and over as they shuffle between facilities. Number two, of course, with private enterprise trying to drive up profits and to be able to build the federal government in the US, they want to keep, again, shuffling bodies around to the different for-profit facilities in order to jack up profits, to jack up returns to shareholders. And I don't know. It could be that they're paying off politicians for all I know. But again, just speculation. But at the end of the day, the risk to Canadians for arbitrary even just overreach in terms of their screening and everything else. It's just not worth the hassles to go across the border, for one. Number two, with Donald Trump talking over and over about annexing Canada, he has pissed off most of the nation. And then again, people are deciding not to go and spend money in a country where the leader wants to annex us and has absolutely no respect for our sovereignty and our independence. So that again is impacting the cross-border shopping. Now, to add to that, already is a big deterrent. You now have, of course, the tariffs and the trade war. Again, Canadians do not want to go and spend their money in the United States when an illegal trade war has been waged against us. When not only is it misinformation when Trump talks about the border issue as a reason for the tariffs, at the end of the day, he wants to annex Canada and has previously publicly stated that he will use economic ways to crush the Canadian economy in order to get Canadians to want to join the US to survive. And I've got news for you once again, Donald Trump. Just like your Golden Dome plan, you can stick your tariff war up your ass as well. If you think that you don't need anything from Canada, then I say that we close the borders. Then I say that we stop feeding you all of our cheap oil and we shut down the electricity grids. And we'll see how long you continue without our lumber, without our oil, without all of that. Now, just in respect to tourism, for every 10% drop in tourism, the US is losing billions of dollars a day in tourism spending. So therefore, it's already having a major impact on the US economy with a 50% drop in tourism. Now, as we know, Canada and the US have been long-standing partners, long-standing allies, and at the end of the day, very close friends and family. I have friends and family in the United States, and I feel for them during these turbulent times, as I know that they don't want the trade war. They don't want all of this crap that's going on between us. They want to go back to a time when we were equals, where we were partners, where we were allies, and we came together in times of struggle. We came together to find solutions to our collective issues. And when we had differences of opinion and disagreements, we sat down at a table like grown adults and we worked them out. And that's how the Canadian-US relations have always been. And this is also something that is brought up with the Bellingham Council and the mayors, is that we have had this long-standing tradition. I mean, even I have driven from my house to Bellis Fair Malls about 45 minutes. I used to love going shopping at Bellis Fair. I used to love shopping at Target and all the different stores that we don't have here in Canada. And there were savings to be had, sometimes great savings, other times not so much. But it was still a great day out to go down, spend time, spend money in whether it's Bellingham, whether it's Seattle, and I would go right down into California. So I've been in the U.S. a lot over my lifetime, and that is something that a lot of people enjoyed, and that was because of the cooperative agreements that we had together. When you look at September 11th that, of course, put stricter crossing requirements on the border, and that cut down on some of the cross-border trips for a lot of Canadians and Americans in both ways. But at the end of the day, security has to come first and foremost when there is a legitimate concern. And for that, Canadians understood, and most of us continued to cross the border because of the fact that we know that the security steps that are taken at the border are benefiting both the U.S. and Canada. So it's not a one-way street. It is about all of us ensuring the collective safety of both nations. Now, of course, we also enjoy a lot of other things in the trade cooperative agreements that we've had, whether it was the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, or before that with the North American Free Trade Agreement, and just so many things that we have collectively come together on and been able to work our issues out as such close allies, friends, neighbors, and family. So let's hope that we can get back to that at some point of common sense to deal with whatever the real issues are. Again, it is, it seems to be at the whim of what way the wind is blowing when Donald Trump gets up and tries to work his hair in the right direction. Moving on from that, there is a major ostrich call that's being called upon in the northern area of British Columbia. Essentially, the H1N1, or the whichever bird and avian flu the code is, but in any event, they did test positive a few birds that died some time back. Now, this also leaves a very large stock of ostriches on this farm. The government has called for the cull of all of the ostriches, and we're talking, I believe it's around 400, to have them all culled, even though there has been a reduction of the bird deaths on the farm, and it is believed that it may actually be passed in terms of the actual major impact. The concern, though, is that with a multi-billion-dollar industry that could be impacted by a bird flu being transferred, whether it's through wild birds landing in the enclosures where the ostriches are, or any other means of communicable diseases being passed from these birds, it is a risk to the Canadian poultry industry. The sad part is that these birds, if they are culled, not only would have a great economic downside for the owners of the farm, but also just the fact that these birds are being unalived, we'll say. So it's sad all the way around. Now, RFK from the United States, Mr. Kennedy has reached out, and he would like to get those birds taken down to the United States so that they can use them for testing when it comes to any genetic mutations or genetic strengths that these birds may have that prevented them from getting the bird flu. Now, this could be an opportunity for advancement in the world of looking at not only vaccines, but also in terms of their resilience to not catch it, but also if there were any birds in that grouping that maybe had the bird flu, what antibodies they had that others may not have had, in the opportunity to try and explore ways to really cut down on the need for such extensive calls in the future. So there's also been calls from Dr. Oz down in the U.S., who of course is working with the U.S. administration as well, and also a billionaire down in the U.S. who said that he would take the birds down to his ranch in, I believe it was Florida. Unfortunately, though, that brings up a lot of concerns for not only the farmers in northern British Columbia, but also the liability of transporting these potentially infective birds from Canada to the U.S. Now, you would be crossing not only Canada, but pretty much from coast to coast across the US with these potentially infected birds, and whether or not they could still spread the disease would be of utmost concern. Now, there are strict regulations for transporting livestock or poultry, live poultry, and other animals across the Canada-US border. Now, are we willing to remove such restrictions on a case-by-case basis in order to get these birds down to the US for research? Or would it be more advantageous to find a way to keep these birds alive here in Canada and enclose them so that they are not at risk of spreading it to other farms or to wild birds, such as enclosures that include full top closures as well as just side enclosures to keep them together. So again, are there options that could be put in place to keep them alive and allow still for the medical and veterinary testing to advance the vaccines or other solutions to the avian flu? Again, it's a tough call to have. And yeah, I feel for the farmers, but I also understand that we have a multi-billion-dollar poultry industry in Canada that needs to really be protected as well. The other concern, of course, is the avian flu was responsible for a lot of the culls that happened in the United States. And those culls were a part of the reason why egg prices were so expensive in the US, because there was a shortage. There was such a large outbreak of the bird flu that it had a very huge impact on the US economy as well as prices for the average consumer. Once again, it is a big issue. At this point, if you are following the story or if you are interested in learning more, reach out in the comment section. Let me know if I should travel to Northern Canada to report directly from the community where the birds are located, where the ostriches are, and if I could go up and see if there are other solutions that could be negotiated or found in terms of this problem that's going on. Once again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. By all means, I read them all, so please make sure to reach out. Now, moving on from the ostrich issue and Bellingham, and yeah, we're talking about the different issues going on. But let's jump over to an international story, and that's coming out of China with the safety concerns around chemical plants. Recently, another chemical plant did explode in China. It was in eastern China. The town was Wilfeng City in Shandong province. Now, I'm just going to go by some notes here because I had to remember what the certain names and such, and what the chemical or what the numbers were of people impacted. So I just wanted to make sure I got that right for you. Now, this particular plant that exploded, it is a manufacturer and processor of pesticides as well as medical use chemicals, which I find odd that you're going to have in the same processing and manufacturing facility. But again, I don't know a lot about the chemicals, so it's not my place to bring that up or my place to dissect that. However, something that I do have a concern with is that there were 19 people injured, 5 people were killed in the explosion, and another 5 people, it is estimated, are still missing at the chemical plant after the explosion. Another major concern that I had with this was that there's a story about an elementary school or a public school close by to the chemical plant. Within a 900 meters approximately from the chemical plant is a school. Now, students were in class when the explosion took place, and they reported seeing different colored gases and smoke, including yellow and gray. But they also noted a heavy smell in the air, at which time the school gave all of the children masks to put on. And again, if there was not a concern about the safety of the chemicals that are close by, especially given an emergency crisis situation where the plant explodes, as it has, then why would you have a school that close to a plant? And if you didn't feel that there was a risk, why would you supply the school with enough gas masks for every staff member and student? Obviously, they knew the concern, and they still chose to have that school located at that location. Again, it is a sad day for the families of the 5 individuals who were killed, the families and friends of the 19 people injured, and of course, for the stress and worry of the family and friends of the 5 people still missing. This again really should be a major concern about schools being located so close to massive chemical plants that possibly could explode as this one did. And what are the long-term effects on these children who breathed in some of the chemicals and some of the smoke prior to being able to secure their gas masks on their faces? Also, with that, what guarantees are there that the masks are effective in filtering out all of the potential carcinogens and particulates that are in the air after the explosion? Again, a lot of questions that need to be answered when it comes to that. If you think that that the Chinese government is going to go ahead and report this accurately, or take the proper steps to provide protections and care for anybody that may get sick down the road from this, I would say that you're probably overestimating the concern of the Chinese government. I could be wrong, and I welcome people to let me know if I am. But at the end of the day, I'm going to give you some information about other issues. Now, this particular plant that had the explosion, they had sent out 230 personnel from the firefighter departments as well as other first responders to deal with the explosion and the fire. So a total of 230 approximately personnel out there dealing with that emergency. The site has also been cited for previous safety risks, including 800 safety risks identified in the first 8 months of 2024. 800! And yet they still have a school within 900 meters of this chemical plant. It's ridiculous. Over the period of, 2024, overall in China, not just in this plant, but overall in China, when it comes to chemical plants, there were 21,800 safety incidents in China. When it comes to employment or workplace-related deaths, there were 19,600 workplace deaths in China in 2024. In 2015, a chemical storage facility exploded, and there were 173 people dead or missing in that explosion. And in 2019, 78 people were killed in an explosion in China's eastern province of Jiangsu. And that again, it's just amazing how many safety risks and concerns were identified at this most recent plant that exploded, and yet they were identified by the community, by the city in which it's located more recently, as being a great leader in how to bring their staff on board to identify risks and fix them. And obviously they are not doing enough to fix the issues. It seems to me that there is probably a lot more that can be done that's not spoken out publicly. Now, it should be noted that with this most recent explosion, an individual, a resident of the area, reported and shared a video of the windows being smashed out at warehouses and locations over 5 kilometers away. Now, for that explosion to cause that type of damage 5 kilometers away, again, a big concern. However, the reason I bring that up is because this individual did not share their name out of fear of retaliation by the chemical company or by the government of China or other individuals for speaking out and sharing the video. That shows me that even though they may have 800 concerns or 800 incidents of concern when it comes to that plant in 1 year alone, I'm guessing that there are probably a lot more number of incidents that are going unreported out of fear of retaliation by workers and those around the plant. So again, a major concern of the chemical processes, the manufacturing, storage, and other safety issues in China. Something that really needs to be dealt with, but again, we need to ensure that more information is brought out, but also that more international education and awareness is brought forward so that other governments too can insist on international standards, not only in China, but in all countries, to keep schools and children away from the locations of such chemical plants where when there are explosions, their school is in a position where they need to give the kids gas masks, being that close to the catastrophic explosion that happened. And so once again, that is a big concern and safety wise. Once again, you're watching Live Chat with James here on ProPix TV in Vancouver, British Columbia. We are going to sign off for this show and thank you for being a part of it. Once again, we invite you to come back tomorrow night between 12 a.m. and 12:15 a.m. where we will be live once again and invite you to be a part of the show. Thanks for tuning in. I'm James Cousineau at ProPix TV in Vancouver, British Columbia, saying thank you for watching and stay safe, everyone.